Traffic jams often plague weekday commutes, and bus rides sure do help, but MnDOT hopes to further ease these frustrations by extending a MnPass lane here on 35W an additional 2 miles south, giving bus riders and commuters an easier ride. It was at this home last night where 2 men knocked on the door and then opened fire on the woman inside. Cash for Clunkers is so popular, Congress pumped an extra $2 billion into the program. Consumers spend billions of dollars on Target merchandise each year, but gay rights activists are boycotting the store after it donated money to a political organization that supports same-sex marriage opponent and Republican gubernatorial candidate Tom Emmer. On any other Tuesday, Casey Schwarzkopf would be going to school. But today,
would you like to vote?
Yeah.
She's heading to the polls.
I am really excited to do it again.
Casey has been voting on Election Day ever since she was in kindergarten. She's been voting in the Kids Voting Minneapolis election, an organization that teaches kids about voting. Each election cycle, all kinds of kids cast ballots in a mock election, whether they be a first-time voter,
I think it's pretty cool.
a political veteran, or a political junkie.
I was checking the polls earlier this morning.
Kids Voting hopes that these elections will show kids that voting isn't as hard as it might seem. Casting a kid's ballot isn't much different than voting in the general election. They pick a candidate for president, Senate, the U.S. House, and they even vote on the constitutional amendment. Then they stick the ballots in, and the votes get counted. In this year's election, more than 7,000 kids cast ballots in Minneapolis and voted overwhelmingly for Al Franken and Barack Obama.
We need to see some serious African-American fame.
The enthusiasm of kids is also trickling up to their parents. In areas with kids' voting programs, adult voter turnout increases 3 to 5%. And kids like Dayton LeMay know that every vote counts.
All those one votes together make millions, trillions even. I mean, we're talking about all the people in the United States.
And although Casey's vote doesn't really count, she doesn't care.
I just like it.
Just as long as her voice gets heard. Alyssa Kroeten, University Report.
1, 2, 3, 4! More nurses on the floor! More nurses on the floor!
After weeks of frustrating negotiations, Minnesota nurses took off their scrubs, grabbed some signs, and hit the picket lines.
It's a heavy heart that I'm out here today. It makes me very sad.
We're here because we want to be doing this, and we feel like we need to be doing this.
12,000 red-clad nurses from the Minnesota Nurses Association are expected to take part in the 24-hour strike at 14 area hospitals. It's the biggest in U.S. history, and nurses aren't happy about it.
We've gotten nowhere at the bargaining table.
Why can't the hospitals take that money that they're spending today and put it into negotiations and work this out?
Nurses are striking for better staffing and safety and claim that the hospitals are only concerned about money.
It seems that they aren't interested in what our opinions are or our feedback. It seems to be all about the profits.
Patient care is a priority both sides are emphasizing, which is something Colleen Patterson knows a lot about. She was released from the hospital on Sunday after spending 25 days recovering from a spinal craniotomy. She didn't think she would make it after the surgery.
The nurse that I had that night, I said, I don't think I can do this. I don't want to do this. And she hugged me and she said, I'll get you through the night. And Sue got me through the night.
Colleen wanted to give some of that care back. No more than 100 feet away from North Memorial is a hidden path leading strikers to a quiet yard where Colleen allows them to use the bathroom and take a break. It's a change of pace from the busyness of the picket line. Hospitals say things are operating smoothly, yet they acknowledge that they are running well below normal patient levels. Almost 3,000 replacement nurses were hired, and the number of patients at hospitals were reduced in anticipation of the strike. Yet strikers aren't confident that replacement nurses are enough.
Go home staff! Go home staff!
You know, we know too that they may not get the care that we're providing for them. They may not have the number of people, and those people don't know our hospital, our systems, or our patients.
Regardless of what might happen, at 7 a.m. tomorrow, nurses will stop their chanting, set down their signs, and put their scrubs back on to head back to work. For the Star Tribune, I'm Alyssa Kroeten. If you build it, they will come. That's what Burt Bauman thought when he came across this 6,400 square foot cornfield in Brooklyn Park.
I think this is the right spot.
What started as a hand-drawn sketch at his kitchen table turned into the future site of the Twin Cities Harvest Festival and Maze, a sprawling corn maze that pays homage to the Minnesota Twins. While this wheat corn farmer is used to hard labor, creating a maze is more than just chopping down corn stalks.
There was somebody that was helping me last week. I haven't found them yet.
It took about a dozen people over 50 hours to map out and carve the winding paths of the maze, but maintaining the maze is half the battle.
It's easier to raise 1,000 acres of field corn than raising this small field corn for the corn maze, just because you have to be making sure that every corner of the maze is in good standing condition.
Water, weeds, and wear and tear on the maze keep Burt on his toes. Watering the maze is a science. Over 24 miles of T-tape is spread throughout the maze to keep the field green.
A little tube with a little drips every 12 inches, and that will provide water throughout the whole field so the corn will grow in good conditions.
But watering the fields gives rise to a peskier problem: weeds. To fight this invasive plant, Burt took matters into his own hands. He built a battery-powered backpack contraption that pumps weed killer through holes in a long plastic tube across his back.
It's a lot of work, a lot of miles walking back and forth in the trails to keep the trails clean.
A lot of water, sweat, and weed killer has gone into the maze, but in the end,
having people walk through the gate after all the planting, all the hoeing and everything, and seeing a person spending 3-4 hours here and leaving with a big smile and tapping on the back, good work, you know, that's the biggest reward I will expect.
it'll all be worth it. For the Star Tribune, I'm Alyssa Kroeten.